Hello, my name is Gray.
And my name is Crystal.
And this is Busty Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show several times,
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. So for today's episode, we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 4, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Written by Rael Tucker, directed by Kim Manners.
I'm on Rael's side in the breakup.
I am literally on Rael's side as well. This episode, what's fascinating is at the beginning of the podcast, we said that we wouldn't care that much about Monster of the Week episodes. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then now that we get our first Monster of the Week episode of Season 2, that's literally just a Monster of the Week. I'm so relieved. I'm so happy to have finally stumbled upon one.
Thank God, back to being normal about people.
I know. So before going in, we just want to announce that we have started releasing extra bits in our Ko-fi sometime last week as a thank you to the people who have pitched in for the podcast. And if you're one of those people and you can't access the bonus content for whatever reason, but mainly because 30 days has passed since you pitched into the podcast, just email us and we'll send you the link to whatever it is that we're doing. Okay, so before the episode starts, Crystal, what did you think about this one before going in?
So I didn't really know anything from the title, but I did know that there was a case at some point in Supernatural where, this girl dies and then she gets brought back from the dead by someone who's in love with her. But I didn't know it was this episode until a few minutes in when I was like, oh yeah, it's probably here.
I think, I was clued in by the title. I didn't really know what the episode was going to be before going in. I don't know which one it would be. But I was clued in by the fact that it's a necromancy episode because of the title. It's just, this episode reminded me a lot of future necromancy episodes, which I like necromancy as a thing that happens in Supernatural. So I think that's partly why I enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Spoiler, I enjoyed it. So for the beginning of the episode, we start with a guy and a girl in a house together. And the guy immediately, right off the bat, exudes nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
I'm the boy best friend type of guy, you know? Mm-hmm. And he is treating this girl because she is going through a breakup. Just as they are getting comfortable, there's a banging at the door. It's the girl's ex. And it's implied that this guy, the ex, it's his fault. That's why they broke up. Because Angela seems to be really upset that he's here. So Neil, the guy, says, oh wait, hold on, I'll just answer the door. Don't worry, I won't let him come in. Then he opens the door and he's like, Matt, who is this girl's ex, don't come in. She's upset. She doesn't want to see you. And Matt was like, get out of the way, loser boy. And immediately tosses him to the side. As they go in, they see that the window has been opened and Angela is nowhere to be seen. We find Angela in the middle of the highway. She's driving a car. And Matt, her ex, is calling her. Matt is saying, I'm sorry, Angela, all that. And Angela is upset. And they keep on fighting over the phone until Angela hits the side of the road and crashes and dies. We end the teaser with Matt on the phone calling out for Angela as blood drips onto the phone. I like this because, it keeps you on edge. You don't know what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah, I liked that it was a totally mundane death with no supernatural elements involved.
Yeah, especially because there is a bit of back and forth between Sam and Dean on whether this is supernatural at the beginning of the episode. So a part of you is like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You know.
How old did you think that Angela, Neil, and Matt were in this episode at the beginning? Because we find out later that they're college kids, but they look fully, like, 25 to 30.
What is this is something I was wondering about, because I'm pretty sure TAs are like master's degree job, right? Neil, what is a TA? So I was wondering, like, are these like kids who are doing their masters?
Yeah, they could be graduate students. That makes a bit more sense. We go to the Impala where Dean is driving again. Boo! And Sam is in the passenger seat. Boo! And Dean's telling Sam that he's being stupid because Sam is going to visit Mary's grave, which is just a headstone because there was no body left after the fire. And we find out that the headstone was put up by her uncle, who Sam and Dean have never met. And it's like, why haven't they met him?
First of all, why is it not John's job to put up the headstone?
I'm sorry, did he blow all of the college money on ammunition by, like, a week after Mary's death?
Yeah, immediately after Mary died. He was like, let's buy guns. It's been my lifelong dream. I think it's fascinating too, because whose side of the family is this uncle?
Mary's uncle, right?
Oh, Mary's uncle or Sam and Dean's uncle?
It was like, it says it was put up by her uncle.
Oh, I was confused because I was like, does Mary have a brother? I must misheard. That makes more sense.
Why wasn't it John's responsibility? And also, if this guy cares enough about Mary that he put up a headstone for her when her own husband didn't bother, then, like, it seems like he'd want to meet Sam and Dean. Like, why didn't they stay with him instead of, like, getting eaten by monsters in motels? Yeah, so Sam tells Dean that the body isn't the point, it's about Mary's memory. Which I guess is sort of similar to him saying that Dean was besmirching John's memory last episode. And I guess I wonder if Sam cares more about the memories of his dead relatives because he's more religious and thus, like, actually believes that they're still around and watching him, whereas Dean probably thinks they're just gonesies.
I think it's just, for Sam, like, memories is not even a thing for him, for Mary, right?
True, yeah.
So he is able to internalize the more abstract idea of it's for her memory, because he doesn't have those memories. Dean has those memories, or at least some of it. So he is more against the idea of, like, capitalizing on that, I guess, for your own personal benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dean would never project, ever. So Sam says that after Dad, it just feels like the right thing to do. And Dean says, it's irrational is what it is. Like, grief is about logic.
Dean, in another universe, is one of those guys who are obsessed with reason and logic. You know, like, you show an ounce of emotion and he's like, being sad is not the logical response to this situation. God.
Yeah, exactly. And I win this debate because you frowned at one point. Sam says, like, you didn't have to come. Dean wants to go back to the roadhouse to find out stuff about Azazel. And Sam says, okay, yeah, just drop me off here and I'll hitch a ride and meet you there tomorrow. And Dean's like, no, I'd have to be stuck with those people and make awkward small talk until you show up. And, like, I'm just so glad that Dean's actually, like, a total loser without Sam around. We saw it in Scarecrow, and now we once more have evidence that if Sam's not in the room, he cannot have normal conversations with people.
I feel like Dean's only normal approach to people is when he's flirting. And he
Yeah.
already turned down Joe. So like it's not gonna
Exactly.
happen anymore.
Yeah, he already had his one night stand with Ash, and it'd be really, like, cringe and embarrassing for him to go back alone. And he's not into MILFs like Sam is, so he's fresh out of options.
So we're in the graveyard now, and Sam is crying and kneeling over a headstone that says Mary Winchester, 1954 to 1983, in loving memory. 1954?
I know!
What the fuck? People are that old?
What was even around in the 50s?
I have no fucking idea. I have some clothes from the 50s because when my grandmother died, I like ransacked her cabinet. So I have clothes from that era. That's all I know. What the aesthetic was like.
I guess she was a teen in the 70s, so I hope that she did a lot of shrooms.
Like for me, my idea of old is like, if you're old, you have to have been alive during World War II, right?
Yeah, that's also my idea of being old.
So like the fact that there's people born in between World War II and 1970 is so weird to me. As Sam is crying over the headstone, he pulls out a set of dog tags. Is this what it's called? Military dog tags, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they're John's. And he says, I think Dad would have wanted you to have these. And then he drops the tags into a hole that he made on the ground. It's a very emotional scene. Sam says, I love you to his mom. I think this is our second time the word love is used for a family member, right? The first one was when Dean said, I love the man, but he writes like Yoda.
Yeah.
But this is our first, this is our first I love you. And it's to a dead mom. So,
Slay.
literally slay. She's dead. That's why it's slay.
So for John's dog tags, like, the point of them is that you wear them the whole time while you're in combat so that if you're killed and your body is no longer recognizable,
your body's
people
recognized.
still know who it is. So, do we think John died wearing the dog tags and then Sam had to, like, take them off his corpse neck to give to Mary?
I'm assuming.
Yeah. What a yikes.
I mean, I don't know the culture surrounding military men. I won't pretend to understand them because I really don't, but you know.
Yeah.
So Dean is off to the corner, not even near the grave. So he's looking at the gravestone that says loving father. He looks away like and makes a face. He walks around and then he finds a tree. He goes over to it, he knocks it, it's rotten on the inside. He continues looking around, and just as he does, the camera goes to a bird's eye view of the place, and we see that there is a neat little perfect circle right around him of dead grass. It looks pretty fucking cool, I must admit.
Yeah, it was very cool because there's a big zoom out, like,
Yes.
bird's eye shot, and it sort of looks like the shot of all the felled trees in Lazarus Rising.
Yeah, I know.
I miss Cass.
I miss Cass too. So he looks around some more and he notices that there are dead leaves in the new grave that he is standing over off. We proceed to a bit later where Dean is talking to some guy and he takes a card from the guy and Sam's like, oh, what are you doing? And Dean says, oh, there's the girl who is buried here. Her name's Angela Mason. She's a college student and she died last week. And Dean is trying to insist that there's something up with this girl. There's something up with her grave. It's an unholy ground. Sam insists that maybe it's, pesticides. And Dean was like, no, I talked to the grave guy. There are no pesticides. Dean says it could be demonic possession, it could be Angela's spirit, and Sam has a very straight face throughout all this. He's not amused. He doesn't believe Dean, and Dean says, well, don't get too excited. You might pull something, which I thought was funny. And Sam says that it's quite impossible that they would stumble into a hunt right here, just right beside Mary's grave. Sam says, are you sure this is about a hunt and not something else? And Dean stands over the car and stares down Sam and says, what else would it be about? And Sam, just giving up at this point, just says, yeah, forget about it. Let's just move on.
Yeah, last time he tried this, he got punched in the face, so...
I know. Dean feels very combative in this scene. He's like, I let you drag my ass way over here. The least you can do is follow up with this hunt.
And Sam gave him an opt-out option. And also, like, it's his mom's grave, get over it, Dean.
Dean says that they should go to the girl's father, who is a professor in the university.
So, we go to Dr. Mason's office, and they go in to talk to him. Sam introduces them as Sam and Dean, friends of Angela's, here to offer their condolences. When they go in, he's showing Sam a photo album of him with Angela while Dean looks through his bookshelves. And Sam says she was beautiful about this dead girl who he's presumably friends with. And, like, he's saying it like it's a revelation. Like, oh my god, this dead girl that I've known for years is fucking hot, bro.
Again, like we said last episode, this is just something people say, you know? Like, she was beautiful. But I guess, like, the way he said it, he was like, she was beautiful. Like, he was shocked.
Damn, I thought Angela was fugly during all the years we were friends, but now that she's dead, she's smoking, bro. Come on, Sam. Dean at the bookshelf shows that he's looking at this book with, like, Greek letters and a triangle symbol on it. And he asks Dr. Mason about it. And apparently it's ancient Greek because he teaches a course in it. So Dean brings the conversation around to Angela's death. And Dean is basically trying to figure out if she's a ghost. He's going like, wow, you know, sometimes when someone dies, it's like they're still around. Like, you can still sense them. Do you feel anything like that? And the whole time Sam is looking at him like, shut up, cut it out, shut up. And Dr. Mason's like, yeah, I do feel that way. And Sam, just glaring at Dean, goes, that's perfectly normal, Dr. Mason, especially with what you're going through.
Do we think Sam is a psychology major? With all these insightful remarks about what is and what isn't normal about grief, I think Sam could have been a fucking insufferable psych major.
Yeah, we've discussed what we think Sam's major was, and I think psychology is actually a pretty good option, because he really gets his armchair psychologist on in this episode. And he's looking at Dean because he's going like, Dean, it would be normal for you to feel like John's presence is still around. You can talk to me, bro, and also stop bothering this poor fucking man. Dr. Mason says that he still calls his daughter sometimes because he forgets that she's no longer alive. And he says, family's everything, you know? Angie was the most important thing in my life, and now I'm just lost without her. And Sam says, we're very sorry, and they head out.
So back in the motel room, Sam and Dean start arguing on whether this is really a case. It's the usual. Dean is insistent. Sam is like, why would it be a case? This girl is perfectly normal. She's not the vengeful spirit type. Dean insists that maybe her father doesn't really know Angela well, so maybe we should talk to her other friends, and Sam is just not taking the bait. He says, I think I know what's going on here. It's the only reason I went along with you this far. This is about Mom's grave. And then he reveals that, as we saw earlier, Dean wouldn't even step a reasonable distance within it. He says, maybe you're imagining a hunt where there isn't one, so you don't have to think about Mom or Dad. And then Sam says, if you want, you can take another swing. Go ahead, if it'll make you feel better.
Ugh!
What a thing to say.
What a thing to say. I know that their dynamic doesn't get properly abusive until later, but, like, that line was like there's something very wrong going on here.
Yeah, and I feel so sad for Sam that he feels like this is a reasonable thing to say to Dean.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not.
Yeah.
You just hit me if it makes you feel better. It's not something that Sam should be saying to Dean, but alas, here we are. Dean gets upset, and then he says he's gonna go for a drink alone, and then he leaves. We then go to Matt's house. Matt is, as you remember, I got Neil and Matt confused, and for the duration of this scene until the guy on the television started making sex jokes, I was like, oh, this is Neil, right? And I was like, oh, no, it's her ex. Anyway, Matt, Angela's ex, is sitting by his couch, and he's watching like a home video type of thing on the television. And it's him and Angela, and they're running around and flirting and having fun. As he gets up to get a beer, we see his plants wilt like right in front of the television. As he sits back down, he doesn't notice it, but he continues playing the television. And then we see Angela's reflection right by the TV. He notices this and he gets surprised, the shock of his fucking life, and he turns around and we don't see it, but he gets slashed. His throat gets slashed and the blood splatter splashes across the television.
And the TV's paused on, like, Angela's face really big, so it's a fun visual. We cut to Dean breaking into Angela's apartment, and he's looking around, and he's looking at a picture of her, and then there's a figure in the reflection of the picture, and you go, slash his throat, Angela, but it's not her. It's Lindsay, her roommate. She's, like, quite normally freaked out by this, and goes, who the hell are you? And, like, runs and, like, locks herself up in her room. Dean goes, no, I'm Angela's cousin. Her dad sent me over to pick up her stuff. My name's Alan Stanwyck.
And then he makes a face when he says Stanwyck, like he's like, I sure hope this works, and it fucking does. Go, Dean.
Yeah. So Lindsay cautiously opens up the door and goes, well, her dad didn't say you were coming. And Dean's like, I mean, if I wasn't allowed here, how else would I have the key to your place? And he just holds up, like, a bunch of keys, and probably not a single one of those is the key to her place.
We know that's not her keys because he cards the door.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the keys. Yeah. Confidence is the key. Dean literally is that guy.
Yeah.
My headcanons are Dean is the guy who's obsessed with reason and logic, and he's also the kind of guy who, like, despite being the prettiest man alive, would tell other guys that you just be confident. You can do anything you want. Pick up any girl you like if you're just confident enough. He's definitely that guy.
So Dean is now talking to Lindsay, and basically she's crying a lot, and Dean tries to ask about Angela to suss out if she actually sort of sucked, but Lindsay says she was great. just great. I mean, she was so, and she's still crying, and Dean goes, great. And Lindsay says, yeah, and keeps crying. And the whole time, Dean looks very uncomfortable with the situation, or also like he's annoyed by her.
Yeah.
And like, her roommate died. Like, come on.
It felt like, and I know this is not what they're doing. We figure out what they're trying to do later. That this girl is a fake and all that. But the way it is portrayed, like at this very moment, it felt very much like, oh, look at this airhead. You know, like,
Yeah.
she can't even think of a way to compliment her dead friend. And I was just like, leave stupid people alone.
Yeah, we're supposed to see later that her crying this much in this scene is a sign that she slept with Matt. But, like, this is just how you react when someone you know dies. Dean is like, okay, you two must have been really close, huh? And Lindsay says we were, but it's not just her, it's Matt, Angela's boyfriend. And she reveals that people believe that what happened is that he killed himself last night, cut his own throat, because he was taking Angela's death pretty hard. She says that he kept seeing her everywhere, and Dean says, well, I'm sure that's normal with everything he was going through. And Lindsay says, like, no, he, like, actually saw her. And Dean asks if they were a happy couple, if there was any reason that she would be mad at him. And Lindsay goes, no, of course not. Why do you ask? And Dean's like, just asking. Also, where did he live, by the way? And I guess she fucking tells him.
I know. So we're back in the hotel room, Sam and Dean's hotel room, and it's just Sam. He's sitting on the bed, and he turns on. He's watching television, and the television is playing porn. This is our first porn thing, right?
Yeah, and it's racial fetishization too.
Yeah, yeah.
Woo! Yay, supernatural! I really want to know what is going through Sam's head right now. Because he's not undressed. He's sitting on the very edge of the bed. His full, long jeans are on. And he's just, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, like he's watching a college lecture or a nature documentary.
He just discovered porn for the first time.
Oh, Sam Winchester doesn't know what sex is. That's my headcanon.
Literally. He's literally just discovering porn for the first time, and he gets interrupted, so he doesn't even see any action.
Yeah, poor man. Sam's being really cast-coded.
So Dean enters, and Sam immediately turns off the television. And Sam's like, hey. And Dean is walking incredibly slowly towards Sam, and then he goes, awkward. What a child. Sam asks where Dean was, and Dean is speaking very passive-aggressively. He's like, oh, I was working my imaginary case. You know what I found? Nothing much, but I did see that Angela's boyfriend died with a slit on the throat, and he kept seeing Angela everywhere before he died. Must be nothing. He's being very, very sarcastic.
Yeah. He goes, I'm sure that's just me transferring my own feelings.
I know. Go, Dean. How do you feel about the fact that he was vindicated? Do you think it would have been better if he wasn't?
I think, like Sam says later, thank God Dean found a case here, because if he didn't, he would have just found something else to kill. That's what I think. I think he is itching for a hunt. He needs stuff out of his system. And apparently beating up Gordon and leaving him to die of dehydration still wasn't enough.
Sam apologizes and says that maybe there is something going on here. Dean starts getting mad again. He keeps on raising his voice this episode.
Yeah.
He says maybe I know how to do my job, despite what you might think. And Sam is still very calm. Says,
Yeah.
should we check the guy's apartment? Dean says, I already did. Sam asks if it's on holy ground. And Dean is like, I'm still not sure, but I've been reading this though. He holds up a pink diary. Are you a diary kind of person?
No. It just,
No.
like, I already lived my whole day, and now I'm either gonna play Doodle Jump or go to sleep. I'm not gonna write about it.
Literally. I used to like fantasize about like when I die, like people are
Yeah.
gonna find my journal entries and it's gonna
Uh-huh.
be like a whole thing. Like
Yeah. The
I'm
little,
such a literary
yeah,
genius. Like,
the
people are gonna find
Tumblrinas will
so much.
post excerpts of what I write, like on the anniversary of
Yeah.
all the days, just like Kafka.
Yeah. But just like Kafka, I found quite quickly that like journaling is not always the best thing for your mental health. I solidly believe that Kafka would have had a better life if he wasn't journaling like 24/7. I am an armchair psychologist, if you may ask.
Speaking of armchair psychology, when Dean says I'm sure that's just me transferring my own feelings, like, transference is an actual psychological term, right?
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
Dean take a psych class too? Or did, like, Sam try to give him trickle-down therapy at some point and Dean remembered some of the terms?
My guess is that Bobby tried to
Oh,
therapize Dean once, and he was, you know that God. This is from fan fiction, right? The one that's like, I met Judith Butler once, and Dean was like,
yes!
who?
Wait! No, that's from Four Letter Word!
That's
No!
a fake. I'm so sorry. I've seen that post around, and like Judith Butler is not a psychologist, but like, who is a famous psychologist that Bobby could do that with? Like his contemporary, Jordan
Uh,
Peterson.
I was gonna say, David Kahneman, maybe?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, he wrote a book about cognitive biases, so I feel like
Oh,
Bobby would try to pull that out with Dean.
Bobby talked to me, and he learned the idea of transferring emotions from me.
Yeah. I met Gray Babpod once.
Yeah, and Dean's like, who? Sam asks, like, why did you steal her diary? And Dean says, oh, she was like a little bit too nice, so he needed to find out more about her. Dean says we should talk to more of her friends. Sam asks, do you have any names? And Dean says, are you kidding me? I have her bestest friend in the whole wide world. He doesn't say it like that. But I wish he did.
Yeah.
He should have put on
No,
the misogyny,
not
like the
Jensen
Jensen
Ackles'
homophobic cast voice.
voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
I'm mostly confused in that one.
Shit, yeah, I
It's
got...
so bad.
It was so bad. Like, just the most lispy gay lisp ever. So, we cut to Neil's house, where it turns out that Sam and Dean are posing as fucking grief counselors in their little outfits, looking younger than Neil, basically.
They're wearing their iconic clothes this episode. The
Yeah.
leather jacket and Carhartt hoodie.
Like, at least the last time they tried to be grief counselor-esque, they just, like, dressed up as priests or something. Dean's like, yeah, we're grief counselors employed by the college. You talk, we listen. Maybe throw in a little therapeutic collage. Whatever jumpstarts the healing. Oh, by the way, Neil is meeting them outside of his house, and I guess that matters. So, Neil says that I'm okay, thanks. And Sam asks about Matt Harrison. He says, We just wanted to make sure you were okay. Grief can make people do crazy things. And, like, this second I'm realizing that he means I don't want you to slit your throat as well. But I thought he was fully accusing Neil of murder. Neil says, if Matt kills himself, it wasn't because of grief. It was guilt. Angie's death was Matt's fault, and he knew it. And he says that she really loved that guy. In fact, her last words in the teaser are, I love you, before she crashes, right? Like, geez, what a fucking tragedy. And she says that the night of the accident, she walked in on him cheating on her with another girl, and she was really upset, and that's why she crashed the car. And he says, okay, I have to go get ready for work now, so bye, I'll be fine. And Dean looks at Sam like, once more I am vindicated, and that therapy you attempted to give me from one class in psychology and just probably going to therapy and sometimes telling you about it was wrong and fake and bad. So, as they walk out, Dean's like, so, that's definitely a vengeful spirit theory. Hell hath no fury. And he trails off. But yeah, quoting Shakespeare, but to be sort of sexist, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned is the line. So yeah, I don't know. I think just the line itself is just kind of that. I don't know. I feel like it is built off of the idea that women's emotions are like often overreactionary. Yeah, but I think it's common enough that I'm not going to give him a point for it. This, makes a new tab for Shakespeare misogyny points, but only as seen on Supernatural. Dean says, okay, well, there's only one way to be sure. Let's burn the bones. And Sam goes, burn the bones? Are you high? What? Okay.
Dean is a weed smoker, confirmed.
Yeah, Dean is your weed-smoking boyfriend and my weed-smoking enemy. Do you think Sam, I feel like most people try weed in college. Do you think Sam tried weed in college?
I'll be honest with you. Like, I am, like, a person who is scared of drugs, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, like, a matter of where I am. Like, the Philippines is... Yeah,
right. That's a very different
politically
environment.
Yeah.
I think that Sam smoked some weed in college. I think he and Brady and Jess probably all smoked weed together a few times, like after exam season to celebrate, and then they all made out with each other. Good
for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Sam is the type of guy to, like, not drink, but he will smoke.
Yeah.
Which is like, I'm just realizing how that comes off the way I said it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm just saying he is that kind of guy.
Oh, he was trying to distance himself from the hunting life a lot, and he said that he didn't really go to that many, like, parties with drinking, like, at the frat party. So, I feel like he'd be like, the underage drinking feels... It is part of college life, but it's also part of hunting life, so I'd rather just stay away from it.
Your drinking age is 21, so, like, you wouldn't be allowed to drink until, like, later on. Yeah, but he was, like, smoking weed. That sounds like a California Stanford normal guy thing to do. Pass the joint, bro. And then he would, like, choke and start crying. Sam goes... Like, Angela died last week. There's not gonna be bones. There's gonna be a ripe, rotting body in the coffin. And Dean's like, well, okay, cool. When are you afraid to get dirty? Let's go. So we go to the graveyard. And they're digging, right? I was just in a funeral quite recently. Yeah. And I was trying to look at how it works, like the whole coffin thing. Burial thing, because I was trying to figure out if Sam and Dean were to come here and dig up my uncle right now, would they succeed? And the answer is no, because they cement the thing. Oh, smart. Yeah. So no Sam and Dean doing grave robberies over here in the Philippines. Sam and Dean have dug enough to like be over the coffin at this
You
point.
skipped a Dean misogyny moment.
Wait,
Okay, you're getting there. Sorry. Okay.
And
I need my point.
As they stand over it, Dean turns to Sam and says, "Ladies first."
And I'm giving
Okay,
him
you
a
can
point.
have your point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said before, I really did think my first
It was a
instinct
transphobia moment.
Yes. But alas, it is more of a misogyny moment in this context.
Yeah.
Sam proceeds to open the coffin, and he was making a face, he's preparing his body, his nose, his everything. But when he opens it, it's fucking empty, bro. And Sam and Dean are just like, oh my god, it's empty. We cut to Neil's house, and he is walking towards his basement. And as we descend, we see a pale girl sitting on a bed in the basement wearing what's she wearing? Wearing a white nightgown. Yeah, a white nightgown.
Do we think she was buried in this?
What a weird thing to be buried in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what do Americans bury themselves in?
I think formal clothes.
Floral clothes?
Like formal clothes, like a suit.
Oh, yeah.
Or something.
I guess we do formal clothes as well, but like Filipino formal clothes, so like a Filipiniana. So I was like wondering, what is the American national costume? So like, what do you guys get buried in?
Just like a suit or a nice dress, I think.
That's your national costume?
Yes, exactly. Either she was buried in this, or Neil, like, resurrected this woman and then bought her, like, a nightgown from Mary's era to wear.
Because she definitely did not die in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, we know how much Supernatural loves their pale women in white nightgowns.
Exactly.
Rael Tucker herself came down and handed this to Neil and was like, just put Angela in this.
This entire scene, like the entire premise of this episode, reminded me of a Thailand movie that I watched when I was really young. And it turned me off like horror for the rest of my life. Because it made me so scared. I was genuinely terrified. It's called 3 a.m. and it's 3 stories. And one of the stories is about this woman who is like a bride, and she dies like right before she got married. And then the guy taking care of her body like lusts over her. And then she comes to life. It's like a whole thing. And I'm genuinely like... Watching this, I was taken back to being like a young child watching that on the television, Filipino dubbed. And I was like, this is genuinely terrifying. Like, I feel so scared. Anyway, Angela comes up to Neil and says, I missed you. And she kisses him. And at first, he seems hesitant, like he seems a little bit scared. But then she goes on kissing him, and eventually he kisses her back.
Do we think this was their first kiss as her in her zombie form?
I don't know. I mean, it can be assumed because of the way he reacts, right?
I guess I assumed that they were already sort of an item in, like, whatever way a zombie can be an item with someone, but that I was just like, probably her mouth tastes like dead person and that's the issue. But yeah, how much of the original Angela's consciousness do we think is in this Angela?
That's fascinating because it looks like this is her uninhibited kind of, but the Angela that we know seems to be like a really nice person.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of weird that, like, when you say uninhibited, it means someone just turns into a bad person. I don't know how to interpret, like, is this her? Is this, like, an entirely different being who's vicious and all that, and just
Right.
a completely different being? I don't think we are given a clear answer. I do know that in future narco, in future necromancy episodes in Supernatural, depending on the skill of the necromancer, the being comes back a little bit different. And
Mm.
by like, if the higher their skill is, the more accurate the being that they revive is.
Mm.
And when their skill is quite low, the being is just like a beast, almost. Which is so fascinating to me because the one I'm talking about is one of my favorite one of characters in Supernatural, Harper
Oh,
Sales.
yeah.
And I think she like, I don't know if I'm mistaking her for the twins that tricked Dean into giving them the Book of the Damned. But I think she comes from a long line of necromancers.
Mm.
And so it's fascinating to me that this Neil guy just shows up once and fucking perfects it. And then someone like Harper has a difficult time reanimating a corpse into someone that is human looking and feeling. So yeah, the lore kind of wavers.
Right.
God, I love Harper. Do you know her?
She's. I know that she's in Optimism, and that
Yes.
Jack thinks that she's in love with him.
Yeah. And like eventually she does fall in love with him in her own way.
Oh.
She writes him a letter. She writes him a letter saying that, like, I'll be back for you. Like, I think we should be together. And I was like, oh my god, is she gonna be back? Is she gonna be back? And then she never was, and I was terribly
Oh.
disappointed. I love it
Sorry.
when women are evil and also in love with Jack.
Yeah. I look forward to her. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious about this Angela who comes back. Is she in. Does she love Neil because original Angela loved Neil? Does she love Neil because when Neil brought her back he wanted her to? Or is it just like the love that a creation has for their creator?
Wow. Going all I've never read Frankenstein. I was gonna say we're going all Frankenstein on this one. But like I think Frankenstein the monster actually hated Frankenstein, so like I'm not too sure.
Yeah, no, Adam did not like Dr. Frankenstein because he wouldn't give him a companion.
He named the guy Adam?
Yeah, like the first man.
Yeah. What a fucking loser.
He was like a grad medical student. Like, he has to be a fucking loser. So Sam and Dean are staring at the coffin going, what the fuckity? And then Sam notices that carved into the inside of the coffin is some triangular symbols that very much resemble those on the cover of the ancient Greek book in Dr. Mason's office. So Dean, like, runs over there and starts banging on the door. And Sam's telling him, like, hey, calm down, take it easy. Dean is not doing that. I think I wrote down here, Sam should not let Dean out of the house. Dr. Mason finally opens the door, and I think it's very good that they gave us the Neil scene right before this scene.
Yeah.
So that we feel the full extent of how awful Dean is.
Yeah, so we can be truly terrified of this guy.
Dr. Mason is like, oh, hi, you're Angie's friends, right? And Sam's like, yeah, hi, Dr. Mason. Dean's like, we need to talk. So they go in, and Dean, like, stages this whole interrogation where he's like, you teach ancient Greek. Tell me. Shows him, like, the symbols. What are these? And Dr. Mason, just being a normal guy, is like, I'm confused. What does this have to do with Angela? And Dean keeps pushing, and he says that it's part of an ancient Greek divination ritual. Dean says specifically used for necromancy, right? And then he says that apparently ancient Greeks used rituals like this for communicating with the dead, or even bringing corpses back to life. And Dr. Mason's like, yeah, according to the legends, now what's all this about? And Sam is already, like, trying to, like, get them out of the situation, but Dean's like, I think you know. And Sam's like, bro. And Dean says, look, I get it, okay? There are people that I would give anything to see again. But what gives you the right? Right. And... okay, I think later it's a good reveal, because I didn't get this at all. It's a good reveal that, like, he's, like, doing all of this out of guilt because he knows that John died to bring him back. But right now all I'm thinking is, like, Dean, have you watched All Hell Breaks Loose parts 1 and 2 of Supernatural season 2?
Supernatural, Dean Winchester? Have you literally never watched Supernatural, Dean?
Dr. Mason's like, what are you talking about? And Dean's, like, yelling at this point. What's dead should stay dead. What you brought back isn't even your daughter anymore. These things are vicious, they're violent, they're so nasty they rot the ground around them. I mean, come on.
God.
Haven't you seen Pet Sematary? What a time to make a reference.
Well, first of all, let's explore. They are vicious, they're violent. They're so nasty they rot the ground around them. From the perspective of, as we reveal later, which I also, I like when that was happening, I was like, God, re-listening to our old episodes is gonna be like a misery. Because we literally did not even consider that Dean may be feeling guilty at all.
Cause who give a fuck about him?
No, I do. And I failed Dean and all the Dean girls in the world. But, yeah, examining that line from a perspective of Dean feels guilty because he should have died but didn't. And he is turning vicious and violent. And because of this line, there is a feeling of he knows, he's aware of his situation. And I feel like this whole thing starts a thing about Dean that a lot of people have talked about, but the fact that he is self-aware, like, we like to think of Dean as repressed and all that, and he is, I feel, to some degree, but he is also very self-aware in his own way. It's just that he chooses not to look, Yeah. And like, he does know himself and he does get a lot of his intentions. He just chooses to, like, be a bull about it and just fucking power through.
Do you think that he thinks that he was brought back wrong?
Oh, interesting. Well, haven't you seen Pet Cemetery?
No.
I literally haven't as well. So we will never know.
Yeah. Good to know. So Dr. Mason says, you're insane. Dean is still insisting. He's like, where is she? And he says, get out of my house. He starts dialing for the police and Dean knocks his phone out of his hand and is yelling, I know you're hiding her somewhere. Where is she? And finally, Sam grabs Dean's arm and is like, look, bro, that's enough. All these plants by the window are alive. There is nothing going on here. Like, let's leave. And Dean stomps out, while Sam is like, sir, we're sorry. We won't bother you again. And they head out.
So, in the sidewalk outside of Angela's dad's house, Dean and Sam are walking. And Sam is finally confronting Dean, like, what the hell is wrong with you? That man is innocent. He didn't deserve to be fucking shouted at and threatened. And Dean is still, one-track mind. He must have kept her somewhere else. If the plants are not wilted there, she must be somewhere else. Sam stops Dean Dean insists that he knows what he's doing, but Sam says, no, you don't. At all. I don't scare easy, but man, you're scaring the crap out of me. And Dean's like, don't be so fucking over dramatic. Sam says the line that you referenced earlier, which is that you're lucky this turned out to be a real case. Because if it wasn't, you would have just found something else to kill. You're on edge, you're erratic, except for when you're hunting, because then you're downright scary. Your tail's spinning, man. And you refuse to talk about it, and you won't let me help you.
My question is, where was this energy in Bloodlust? Like, in Bloodlust, Dean is like, I'm leaving Gordon to die of dehydration and I'm gonna punch him in the face. And Sam's just standing by the door smirking like, so true! Like, Dean is definitely scary this episode, but he was a lot worse last episode. Is it just the this man is innocent part?
Yeah, maybe because he doesn't see Gordon as necessarily innocent. That's why. But, like, what happened with Gordon still felt so excessive. Like, even with the context of he's not, like, entirely a good guy in the context of the episode. And it's fascinating, too, because, like, last episode, like, Dean was like, oh no, what if I'm the bad guy? And Sam was like, it doesn't matter, it's fine. And then here is like, no, you're the fucking bad guy.
Yeah. Also, the fact that last episode was like, what if we were killing things that, like, don't deserve to die, and then there's, like, no moral dilemmas around Angela's death this episode?
There was!
Well, okay, Sam got 1 second, and then he was like, nah.
Yeah, that's true. Dean says, I can take care of myself, and Sam insists that no, you cannot. You're the only one who think you should take care of yourself only. You don't have to handle this on your own. No one can. Dean, they're still walking, and Dean's still angry, and he's like, if you bring up Dad's death one more time, and Sam says, it's killing you. We've already lost Dad. We've lost Mom. I've lost Jessica. And now I'm going to lose you too. Which I was like, that's a Cass. That's like something Dean says to Cass. This is not.
Oh, right. In 701?
I'm not sure. I think it was like 6 something. Anyway, it's a Cass line. Sorry, Sam. The Dean deflects. He says, we should go before the cops arrive. And then he says, I hear you, okay? I'm being an ass, and I'm sorry. But right now, we've got a fucking zombie running around, and we need you to figure out how to kill it. And Sam is like, our lives are weird. He does like the thing that he did in Route 666, where he was like, I wish we heard sentences that started with anything other than there's a zombie run loose, you know?
Yeah. We're back at Neil's place, and Angela's sitting on his couch, and she asks, is something bothering you? And he says, it's about Matt. And she's like, haven't we wasted enough time on him already? You always said that he didn't deserve me. You were right. And Neil's like, so you didn't, like, go see Matt or, like, anything else, did you? And Angela's like, no, I've been here the whole time. Do you really think I could do something like that? Neil's like, I don't know. You just seem... And Angela says, different? You're right. I am. I've realized you're the only one who ever really loved me. You proved that. You brought me back. I'm with you now. Isn't that what you always wanted?
The scene, because she climbs onto his lap,
Yeah, she
right?
climbs onto his lap during the scene.
It's very reminiscent of Pilot.
Yeah, the woman in white.
Yeah, climbing onto Sam's lap. So I was like, not a good visual. I'm confused as to why they made her look like this.
Yeah, why is she like a sexy zombie?
No, I mean, she's a sexy zombie, it's fine. Zombies can be whatever they want to be. But like, I'm mostly referring to the fact that she looks so similar to a monster that we already have had. So like, why didn't change up her aesthetic? Because he's basically unrecognizable from the Lady in White if you put them side by side.
Right.
Okay, so in the motel room, Sam and Dean are trying to figure out how to kill the zombie. I guess at this point, they call it zombie, right? That's what
Yeah.
they call it. So they're like, with a headshot maybe? And Sam's like, no, you've been watching too many Romero flicks. And Sam reveals that the reason why he can't find a way to kill zombies is because there's too many fucking ways to kill a zombie. So he can't pinpoint the one that actually works. Sam says maybe silver might work because in some stories they do.
Doesn't he also say, feeding their hearts to wild dogs? That's my personal favorite.
Yeah.
Which is very cute. Sam
He's
looks
cute
very
this
cute in the
episode.
scene because he's wearing his, like, iconic, like, it's sort of a loose button-up shirt with, like, a pattern on it. And I feel like I've seen...
The white one?
Yeah,
Is it the white one?
The white one with patterns on it, yeah.
It's beautiful. I
yeah.
want that. I want that for myself.
It's very cute. It's a good shirt for, like, the beach.
They debate on where to find Angela, and Dean settles on it's probably Neil because he is the professor's TA. He has access to all the same books where they found the necromancy spell.
Well, first he says it's because he read the diary and it says that Neil is a real shoulder to cry on. He so understands what I'm going through with Matt. And he's like, yeah, Neil definitely has a thing for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that trope of like the guy best friend? You know, that one.
I think that it was born out of guy writers who had been
Have
in
the
that
same
position
experience.
before and felt really, really, like, bitter about it.
It's fascinating to me because all my friends, like all of us, are not straight. So like the dynamic is just different, I feel, versus if I was like a straight person and I was best friends with a straight person of the opposite gender. Like it would be a different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I have bisexual friends of the opposite gender. So like I don't know. But I just it's just a weird trope, I feel, because it stems from the the like guys and girls cannot be friends type of shit.
Right. Which is just
weird.
Oh god, I've been poisoned by Omegaverse. As soon as you thought that, I was thinking about, oh yes, because their heats and their ruts might line up.
I'm gonna put that in. I'm not
No!
gonna get rid of that.
Killing and
You
violence.
will be exposed.
I am okay
Omegaverse
with
reader.
that, I suppose. But, yeah, you know what? That's fine. Jesus Christ. Death and killing and violence. I think that if I read that in a diary, I would not immediately be like, wow, Neil is definitely in unrequited love with Angela. Like, I just feel like, cool, good friend.
I think that's like a product of its time as well. I think, this was like, 2006? So the idea might be more prominent than it is now.
Yeah. Also, Dean's incapable of being friends with women, so I think that's part of it. So they break into Neil's house at night, and Dean says, hello, Neil? It's your grief counselors. We've come to hug. Oh boy, yeah, and he pulls out a gun with silver bullets in it, and they walk around. They see that there's dead plants in the room, and they start investigating the basement. They look down and inside, but it's completely empty. But there is a bed there, and it looks grimy. So Dean says, it sure looks like a zombie pen to me. Sam asks if Dean thinks Angela's going after somebody, and turns out that there is a loose grate in the basement that she's been using to escape. Is this how apartments are built?
I have no fucking idea. I've never been in a house with a basement.
I just don't see why there would be a grate from the basement to the direct outside, you know?
Maybe it's like in a slanted place, you know?
Right. Yeah, but also I guess, like, what's the point? Like, do you want air from outside to go into the basement?
Isn't that like a flood risk?
Yeah, that seems very much like a flood risk. Dean jokes, nah, I think she went out to rent beaches. And Sam's like, look smartass, she might kill someone. Which I think is like a bit of an overreaction to Dean's usual snark, right? But also, like,
Yeah.
I think that Sam is right to just get annoyed at Dean really easily for things given Dean's behavior recently. So, Dean says, okay, well, she killed Matt because he was cheating. And he says, well, it takes two to, you know, have hardcore sex.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And he says, it seems like Angela's roommate was broken up over Matt's death. Like, really broken up. She seemed normal, but okay.
So we go to Angela's house, and Lindsay is looking at pictures of Matt and Angela. And she hears a noise, so she goes up to the door. And when she opens it, there's no one outside. But when she turns around, it's Angela. And she says, hi, Lindsay, I'm home. She doesn't say it like that. I don't know why I keep on putting on that voice. But, so starts a fight scene. Lindsay runs to the kitchen. Angela picks up a knife. No, not a knife. Scissors. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love scissors as a murder weapon.
It literally would not work. Like, those scissors are so fucking dull. The tip of them are not even pointed, so it's never gonna work. Apparently I'm wrong. Lindsay was like, I'm sorry. And Angela was like, not enough. And as they're trying to stab each other, Angela accidentally falls and stabs herself with the scissors in the chest.
Well, Lindsay kicks her, which causes her to fall on the scissors.
And at first we think she's dead again. But then she opens her eyes and pulls out the knife, well, pulls out the scissors from her body. Cascore. Mm-hmm. And she was about to stab Lindsay when we hear a couple of shots coming from the window nearby. It's Sam and Dean, and they're shooting at Angela with silver bullets, and she like winces a bit, but it's not enough. She runs off to the window into the backwoods, I guess, of this house. And Sam assists Lindsay, and Dean runs after her, but then comes back immediately and is like, yeah, the dead chick can run. And Dean says, let's go back and have a chat with Neil.
So we're in the Impala, and Sam is studying John's journal to look for alternate ways of killing Angela. And apparently, besides silver, you can nail the undead back into their grave beds. So Dean's like, oh, how are we gonna get Angela back to the cemetery? So they show up to Neil's office, and Dean comes in and he says, you know, I've heard of people doing some pretty desperate things to get laid, but you take the cake. And yeah, he's right. Neil asks, who are you guys? And Dean says, you might want to ask Angela that question. Sam reveals that they know what he did. Dean says, your girlfriend's past her expiration date and we're crazy? When someone's gone, they should stay gone. You don't mess with that kind of stuff. Sam mentions the murders, and Neil is continuing to play dumb until Dean, like, yanks him up by the collar like a misbehaving cat. and goes, "No more crap. Matt's blood is on your hands. Now, me and Sam can make this right, but you have to tell us where she is." Neil says that she's at his house, but then Dean sees that there are some dead potted plants by the window. So she is definitely in the office. Dean notices that there's a closed closet nearby and decides to say very loudly so that any zombies hiding in the closet might hear. It doesn't really matter where she is. We're going to perform another ritual over her grave to reverse the one that you did, and it'll just work and she'll be dead again in a couple hours. And then he tells Neil that they should leave with them right now. Get out as soon as you can. No sudden movements. Don't make her mad. And he and Sam leave.
So, as soon as Sam and Dean leave, Neil goes over to the closet and Angela is there. Gay rights. Neil is like, "Oh, I told you to stay at home." And she said, "I just wanted to see you." And she shows him the bullet wounds that Sam and Dean inflicted on her. And Angela says, "Come with me to the cemetery. They're trying to kill me. We have to stop them." And Neil, realizing what's, happening, asks, "You mean you want to kill them?" He concludes that it's true that she killed Matt and Lindsay. And Angela says, "They hurt me. If you love me, you'll make sure nobody hurts me again." And she insists that they go to the cemetery and then proceed to live new lives together. Neil says, "Okay, God help me, but okay." He says he'll go to the car and asks Angela to wait for him. And so he proceeds to go to his car. He is obviously very scared and he's like fumbling with his car keys. And he drops the keys. So when the supernatural does the usual thing where like somebody drops something and when they go back up, someone is in front of them.
Yep.
And it's Angela. And she was like, "Wait, why are you so tense? You were gonna leave me, weren't you?" And Neil was like, no, of course not. And Angela was like, "How could you? I loved you." I'm sorry for the voices. What am I doing? I'm trying to keep this entertaining, you guys. You guys should be grateful. And then Angela grabs his head and fucking snaps it.
Yep.
Quite brutal, but
Yep.
not bloody, so we can see it on screen.
I wonder what, after Sam and Dean leave, like, how this town investigates this murder. Like, they can't be like, Neil was so sad about Angela's death that he snapped his own neck.
I think Sam and Dean would be
The prime suspects.
the prime suspects of this situation because they went and attacked the father and all that.
Yeah, put it on their file, I guess. We are back at the graveyard, and Sam and Dean are lighting candles, setting up a fake ritual. And they hear a noise somewhere, so Sam starts heading towards it with his gun. There's like a while where he doesn't see where Angela is, but we see her closing in on him from behind. And then he turns around at the last minute and points the gun at her. She says, "Wait, it's not what you think. I didn't ask to be brought back, but it's still me. I'm still a person. Please." And Sam takes the second, and he goes, "Eh," and then he, like, shoots her in the forehead.
That's what I was talking about, that, like, there was a moment of hesitation where we're continuing the "are monsters people" thing. But that's not the point of the episode, so they don't linger on it.
Yeah. And I guess Sam's reasoning was like, well, we literally saw her try to murder her roommate, so she's probably not that great. Though, I mean, if we're going off of the idea that Sam thinks that as long as you can reason with something, then you should not try to kill them, then I feel like do you think Angela could be reasoned with?
Interesting question. Which is how you know I don't know how to answer it. Because I say that. Um, do you?
I think that her cognition is quite good in that, like, she's quite good at manipulating people, but,
Yeah.
like, that may just be a result of being brought back. She only has the goal of revenge, and she'll just have whatever skills are necessary to get there. So I guess in that case it would be hard to see how she could be reasoned with, but also, like...
I mean, like...
They
let
didn't
her
really
do
try.
some DBT, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Let her do some DBT. I think she would be fine.
Yeah, give her some worksheets. I think that it would be hard, but I think that eventually it would be possible to get through to her. Because she's, like, capable of feeling emotions and feeling betrayed and feeling hurt. So, like, I'm sure that there's ways to leverage that so that she understands not to do murders. He shoots her, and she starts chasing him. She eventually tackles him and tries to stab his neck, too. But Dean shoots at her until he sort of, like, corrals her back into her open grave, where she lands in her coffin. And then Dean gets this rusty nail. He gets a big metal stake and stabs her straight through the stomach into the grave. And when I heard about nailing the dead back into their grave beds, I thought they were gonna, like, full-on crucify her. And I was watching this on Easter, so I was like, I look forward to watching the crucifixion. But no, it was just one rusty nail in the middle of her stomach. Dean, like, drives it in really hard. She says don't, but eventually she dies again. And Dean pulls back and says once more, what's dead should stay dead. My question is, how tall is that coffin? Because I don't see how they're gonna close it with that tall sword in her.
Maybe they're gonna saw off the rusty nail. The rusty pole.
Yeah, alright. Or they're just gonna put dirt, like, over her directly, which would be very rude.
So, we are in the epilogue. It's morning now. Sam and Dean are just about finished reburying Angela. Sam says, like, rest in peace, and Dean says, I hope for good this time, okay? This entire scene, do you know why this scene is here?
No, really?
Well, because Jared breaks his hand.
Oh.
Like, for realsies. I think so. Wait, can you look it up while I narrate this scene? If he breaks his hand in this episode, or, like, in Simon Said, which is the next episode. But I'm pretty sure, like, Jared wears a cast, like, in the following episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I feel like...
Oh, yeah, he did break his hand. Yeah, doing a stunt before the filming of the episode. So, yeah, he went without a cast for the whole, like, first part of the episode, despite having a broken arm. And then they, like, wrote it in near the end.
So the whole point of this scene is to be like, Sam is gonna be wearing a cast, so, like, don't be shocked. He broke his arm here. He just says, why did I have to be afraid? I think she broke my hand. Dean turns around and looks at Mary's grave. His look lingers, and Sam asks, do you want to stay for a while? And Dean says, no. And then they hop into the car. In the highway, as they drive, suddenly Dean, who is driving, swerves to the side of the road and just stops it right there on the side of the road. He hops out, and Sam asks, like, what's going on? And Dean says, I'm sorry. The way I've been acting. And for Dad. He was your dad too. And, like, this scene, I was like, yeah, why haven't we explored, like, any of Sam's emotions? Like, we explored it a little bit in everybody loves a clown. But even then, like, the last scene was Dean, so,
Yeah.
like, the lasting feeling is like, oh, like, Dean is not processing. That's so sad.
Right, and then the end of Bloodlust is also, like, long, lingering shot on Dean.
Yeah. So, like, we're not getting a lot of Sam action so far in season 2, which, like, sucks. And then Dean says, it's my fault that he's gone. Sam questions him, and he says, it doesn't take a fucking genius to figure it out. Dad died, and the cult was gone immediately after my full recovery. So our complaint earlier this season that, like, didn't they connect the dots?
Yeah.
They both did. They just don't want to confront it.
Yeah.
Which makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Dean says, like, I don't know how the demon was involved, but it sure was. But Dad's dead, and it's because of me. That much I do know. Sam says we don't know that, not for sure. Dean starts tearing up, and he says, you and Dad, you're the most important people in my life. And now, ... I never should have come back, Sam. It wasn't natural.
One might even say supernatural.
And now look what's come of it. I was dead, and I should have stayed dead. You wanted to know how I was feeling? Well, that's it. And then he turns to Sam and he says, so tell me, what could you possibly say to make all that right? Well, a single man tear.
Yeah, slips down his face.
He shows emotion.
Without a trace.
Without a trace.
And Sam's also a bit teary, right? Like, he's, like,
Yeah.
nodding in sympathy with Dean and his face is scrunched up.
We pan out, and it's, you know, the two of them sitting by the car right beside the road. And then we cut to black.
Yeah. When Dean said, what could you possibly say to make that all right? I was like, you said it earlier, hug about it. Just hug! Like, I promise, you'll feel better. Have we seen them hug, like, at all this season?
Ever.
Or ever?
No, I don't think so. I think in the super wiki, there's like a hug for home, because Sam like collapses and Dean kind of carries him.
Yes.
But like that's debatable because it's not a reciprocated hug or even an unreciprocated hug. It's just someone carrying someone.
Yeah.
Do you think if they hug that would be an appropriate ending to this episode? I don't think so.
I think that the place that they are now, it would, I mean, I'm assuming they're continuing the grief plotline, so I feel like a hug might be too early. But I feel like if your dad dies and your sibling is crying about it, typically one hugs about it.
I think just any physical connection, like a pat on the back, you know, would work. I was just thinking if Sam and Dean were sisters, they would definitely be hugging.
Yeah. And they'd probably, like, hold hands a lot more, too. I don't know, Dean seems to think that, like, Sam wants him to talk about it so that Sam will say something in response that'll fix it. And, like, that's not the point.
Yeah. Like, Sam wants Dean to talk about it just so he can talk about it. Like, that's the whole point. It's not to give advice or to fix Dean. It's just so that Dean will feel lighter and less burdened by everything that he's carrying by himself.
Right. Because he says that he has to keep his game face on around Sam, and that's, like, additional stress. Sam's just saying, like, don't put this additional stress on yourself.
Okay, Crystal, how did you find this episode?
After Bloodlust and Everybody Loves a Clown, I was like, wow, best episode of Supernatural ever? But no, I think it's just alright. I liked the ending scenes, and I liked Sam and Dean's argument, and I thought the case was fine. So yeah, what else could you ask for from Supernatural?
Yeah, exactly. It's a supernatural episode, and a pretty damn good one. So I think this is a very solid monster of the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the monster of the week is good. You know how we complained in Everybody Loves a Clown that they have this whole case right after John's death,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't relate to the grief at all. This one so strongly relates to what they're trying to say in the episode about the brothers that it feels so seamlessly made.
Yeah, when Dean
Yeah.
finally reveals, like, what he's been projecting about near the end, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, best line, worst line.
My best line is Sam's argument with Dean, where he says, "You're lucky this turned out to be a real case, because if it wasn't, you would have just found something else to kill." And also when he says, like, you can't take care of yourself, and you know what? You're the only one who thinks you should have to. You don't have to handle this on your own, Dean. No one can. Just, what a good lad. What a good lad. And also, I love every line that's about Dean being violent and angry and terrible.
I think I really like the line about, like, towards the end when Dean was revealing. I like that he said, he's your dad too. It's a reminder to the audience that, yeah, Dean is grieving and he has a very special set of circumstances at which to grieve about and for. But, like, Sam is there too.
I too am in this episode.
Literally, Wilson coded I too am in this episode. I feel like people don't have no fucking idea what we're talking about every time we
do we
say
need
I
to
too am in
post
this episode.
I don't want to post the GIF on our socials because I don't know where to find the original and I don't want to steal it, though.
Yeah, if you want to know what the fuck we're talking about every time we say I too am in this episode, DM us or email us or whatever. So we can send
I'll
it
try
to
to
you.
look for the post, and if we do find it, then I'll reblog it on our Tumblr.
Okay, good. But yeah, like, it's a reminder that sometimes, you know, when we're grieving, we tend to forget that the other people around us are grieving too. I feel like it's that, you know, it's the reminder that Sam is my father's son as well, and is grieving our father's death as well. Is what kicked Dean to actually apologize and to actually talk about his feelings, you know?
Right.
Like, the fact that he premises all that with he's your dad too is kind of implies that. So I like that. I like to think that that's what instigated Dean's reaction here. The realization that Sam is also a human being with feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
What's your worst line?
Huh. Do you have one? Because I'm still trying to figure out what
I do.
Okay.
I thought the pet cemetery line was so weird.
Yeah.
Like, it was to cut the tension, right? But the tension did not need cutting at that moment.
Right.
So it just felt out of place.
Yeah, I agree. Since I can't find anything right now, I will just hitch my wagon to your wagon.
Amazing.
Oh no, actually no, my worst line is next on the Skin Channel, Casa Erotica 4, A Tale of Two Latin Beauties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love the introduction of racial fetishization to Supernatural.
Should we add a point to Sam?
Sure, yeah, sure. Sam gets
Yeah.
a racism point.
So for IMDb rating, what do you think is the IMDb rating of this one?
Okay, well, the last two episodes were both 8.2s. I would hope that this one gets higher, but I don't know how much higher. I feel like since it's just a typical Monster of the Week episode, I would rate it at like the good Monster of the Week episodes in season 1 were like Bloody Mary and Skin, and those got like 8.4s, right? So I guess I'll just put this as an 8.4.
I'll go a bit higher and say 8.5. Okay, let's look it up. Holy shit.
What?
Guess again.
How far is it? Like really low or really high?
No, just guess again.
I just don't think it could be that much low. I don't. Maybe it could be that much lower. 8.7.
It's 7.9.
Wait, what did they dislike about it? It was
I'm
fine.
so sad. I'm genuinely so sad.
It was
I am
fine.
so sad.
It was fine.
It is the first episode after 201 that I enjoyed. Maybe because it's back to like Monster of the Week and they didn't expect that.
Maybe.
Let's look at the user reviews.
Oh my god, someone just listed a bunch of things that they liked, and then they said, on the downside, Sam really could have said something at the end to make Dean feel better.
Oh, fuck off.
Fuck off!
Oh, this is like, a lot of it is a tribute to older movies.
Right. Yeah, that's true. A lot of the cases that seem very stolen from other horror movies get lower ratings because people find them corny. But I guess as two people who don't really watch horror, each time we're like, wow, this is so cool and new and interesting.
Yeah. This one complains about how convenient the case was. But isn't that the point?
Yeah, that's
that
the
like
point.
Dean is actively looking for a case for like every single place he goes in?
Yeah.
The worst episode till now.
What?
I don't even want to read it because like I'm feeling bitter.
Oh, I'm gonna read it, I guess.
Yeah, you go read it and take the excerpts.
Oh my god, fuck you. They said that this episode is bad because despite their hunting history together, all of a sudden Sam stops trusting Dean's hunter instincts. Sam was right. Sam is always right, and you are always wrong, random IMDb reviewer. This person says that it doesn't make sense that Dean confronts people that don't know what he's talking about, even though last season he was good at knowing when someone was lying or not. Like, have you heard of a thing called grief? Yeah, it hurt them to see the characters they invested, like, grow it away so that they don't get stronger or smarter and don't learn. I love it when characters don't get stronger, don't get smarter, and don't learn. Also,
I love it because I look at them and go, they're just like me.
For real.
This one, there's a weird one. The
Yeah,
very
the
bottom one. Should we mention it?
Yeah, there's just one rating that's completely about how the person who is credited with playing Angela in IMDb is not the actual actress who did it. And then they go on for so long about how, the woman who played Angela had a larger nose and a narrower chin. Her mouth was about as wide, but her lips were the wrong shape, and her smile was nothing like Summer's variety of smiles. Who are you? Okay, oh my god. And then they said her eyes are slightly angled, giving her a very exotic look. Who are you?
I would love for this person to describe me.
How many... Literally, your nose is flatter and your eyes are slightly angled.
No, I checked and they changed. The actress playing Angela is Amara Zaragoza.
Okay, yeah. So I guess this person's comment did some good. Even though, like, the level of detail that they went into is just offsetting.
Okay, so I think that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next time, we will be talking about Season 2, Episode 5, Simon Said. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow us on social media. We are on Twitter at twitter.com/beautiespodcast and on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is BABPOD, BABPod. Also, thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time.
Bye!
Bye!